Okay, we left off with our profile figure, and I have not put a face on her yet. So we need to talk about the face proportions. In an earlier video, we talked about the face proportions for a front view face, and now I'm going to talk about it for a side view face. Well, let me actually do it. I can do it on, I think I'm going to do it on a different piece of paper because I've got one large profile head here, and I think I'm going to do a second one next to it. So I went ahead and pulled a couple of reference photos. Do use a reference photo. And when you look for a reference photo, what I recommend you guys look for is a face that is truly turned to the side. If you see a little bit of eyelashes on the other side, they might be turned slightly towards us, and that makes it a lot harder. The other thing that makes it a little tricky is if somebody's mouth is open, it sort of throws off our proportions. So if it's your very first one, and if you're a little bit shaky with drawing, you might want to pick one with a closed mouth. I think I'm going to go with this one because this is a nice, I don't want to say easy, but it's a really clean profile. Her mouth is closed. It's truly exactly looking to the side. And also they're facing the correct way. I pulled these ones, which I thought were quite lovely, but they're facing to the right. So I don't want to confuse us. I'm going to do one looking to the left. All right. So where did we leave off? We left off with basically like, sorry, I've got so many papers over here. Okay, I left off with kind of like an alien head, right? Like we got a basic shape in here, but we don't have a face yet. I want to point out a couple of things. If you guys remember, when we drew our standard front-facing female face, okay, the kind of rules, I hate to call them rules because normal people's faces don't, if you're a supermodel, your face will probably follow these rules, but normal people shouldn't put any kind of pressure on themselves. But just so you guys know kind of what our sort of standard is for our illustrations, it's that the eyes are going to be halfway. And whether she's facing forward or whether she's facing to the side, the eyes are going to stay halfway. The brow, we started the brow a little bit above the eyes. It might arch up, it might be straight, who knows, but if the starting point, okay, is going to be a little bit above the eyes. That will still be true. From the brow is where we determine the bottom of the nose. Okay, so halfway from here, let me zoom in really close. Halfway from the brow to the chin, halfway is the bottom of the nose, okay? So that's going to remain the same as well. So I'm going to put the bottom of my nose right there. Okay. I'm just a little too high. Okay, bottom of my nose. Once you know the bottom of your nose, you can find the opening of your mouth. The opening of the mouth is 1/3 of the way towards the chin. Okay, because we need more space here for a lower lip and a chin, but the opening of the mouth is going to be there. Use a reference photo to get the shape correct, but that'll give you the opening of the mouth. And then use a reference photo to see what you see with the nose. Is it nostrils? Is it actually not? What do you see? You got to look at it and find out. The circle of the eye is on the line. There's about an eye width between each eye, approximately. And the ears go from about brow level down to the nose. Now, I'm just drawing a completely generic face here because I'm not using a reference photo, but this is just to remind everybody of the proportions. Everything I'm doing here is going to happen over here as well. Okay, there's the mouth. The ear we'll talk about in a minute, and then we've got a hairline that is typically about giving the same distance for the forehead as we have for the nose and the lower face. Okay, that balances the face into thirds. And as I mentioned before, there are other ways to block out the geometry of the face, but I find this way really works for people, so this is how I like to explain it. I've tried lots of different ways, and this way I think really works. Okay, let me give you the generic, and then we're going to use a reference photo. So generic, right? Well, let me get my face so we can actually look at it. Okay. So here's my face. We've got a little dip in right here by the nose. Okay, so we've got this little dipping in right there. And I want to really square up my camera. Okay, so I'm going to scoop in a little bit by the nose. Notice the forehead. Her forehead's a little bit flat. Sometimes people have a much more rounded forehead. It just depends. So I'm going to keep what I've got. Okay, that'll work fine. Here's the deal with the nose, guys. For women's faces, especially younger women and especially fashiony faces, the nose tends to be a little bit upturned at the tip. Okay, so what that means is I'm going to need to go out and back in to land at the level that I identified. So make sure your pencil is really sharp. If you want to use a mechanical pencil for this, I actually think I'm going to. I think it'll give me a chance to make my details really precise. Notice that my alien face has no nose. Okay, there's no nose here. I've got to go outside of my line, and then I've got to come back in to land on the line. Okay, so you've got to extend out. Otherwise, you're going to make like a pug dog. Okay, you'll see on some of my drawings also, I draw angles on the face to kind of figure out, what is this face doing? That tends to be kind of helpful. You'll notice many times that the nose and the chin, if you put a ruler between them, one of the lips might touch that line, maybe both, maybe neither, but doing things like that I think will really help you kind of decide what you need to do. So let's say I put a line connecting her nose and her chin. Her lower lip is going to touch the line, okay? So when I come over here to draw her face, I'm going to draw the upper lip and come in. That's my mouth level. So I have to get that lip in and complete and back to the line before that level. And now I've got all this space to play with the lower lip and the chin. The lower lip is going to come out and then scoop in and then create a chin. Okay, so that's going to give you something that looks face-like. I have a lot of other lines on here, so I'm just going to lighten up the rest of my pencil lines so that you guys can kind of see the contour of this face. But it's like nose, and then the upper lip is in a way very similar often to the shape of the nose, just smaller. And then we've got to fit the lower lip and chin and then wrap it back around. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. I'll do a bigger one of her face in just a second. For the eye, you need to really look at your reference photos. Sometimes the eye is very close to the edge. Sometimes the eye is set back. Everybody's face is different. So you really do need to look at a reference photo and determine where you want this eye to go. I'm going to actually transition. Well, let me talk ear and hairline, and then I'm going to transition to a bigger drawing to talk about the eye in more detail. All right. If you feel your own face, if you feel your jaw is aiming up towards your ear. Okay, and we know that our ear for these drawings needs to reach from about brow level to about nose level. So there's my ear, okay? And I can determine how far back to put it by kind of following the jawline, and that'll aim me back towards where I might want to put an ear, okay? As far as the hairline, we can follow right along, and then now that we've got our ear in place, it's usually pretty easy to come in and put some sort of a hairline shape. Everybody's hairline is totally different also, so be sure you use a reference photo. Now, the back of the head, this is the part where if your head is a little bit flat, add some brains to your lady. Make her smarter. Hungry and smart is how, is how they're looking today around here. Okay, so we're going to build out the back of the head so that it feels a little bit more round. The brow is another thing that people don't expect it to look the way it looks. Okay, from the side view, a brow is really different from a front view. Sometimes it's just barely anything. Okay. The mouth as well is not what people expect. I'll show you what people... let me transition to a bigger drawing and then I can talk in more detail. Okay, but this is going to get us started. I'm going to do my bigger face over here next to this finished one so that we can just kind of put another one side by side for the sake of looking at lots of examples. Okay, so let's see what we got. I'm going to turn her so that she's more vertical, okay, because the photo she's tilting her chin down. Here is her chin. Here's the top of her head, probably it's about right there. There's her eyes, eye level. Okay, and yeah, guys, it's about halfway down the head. Then we've got her brow and her nose, the bottom of the nose, okay, and from there to the chin. Yeah, it's working. It's doing the math. The math is mathing. There's the opening of the mouth. You can see that it's closer to the nose. Okay, so I drew a little bit lightly, but But hopefully that helps you to sort of see where our levels are going to be. So let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to go ahead and draw a head shape. And I'm just like we did the other day, we're going to make this double high because I want us to have a little bit more space to work, and doing it double high on our ruled out paper gives us a really nice way to make sure that our eyes are halfway. Okay, so we had started out with kind of a weird ice cream cone, if you remember what I was explaining before, but we want our chin to touch the line. Okay, we want our chin to touch the line, and we want the top of our head to touch the other line. Okay, we're gonna put our eyes halfway down. So just to repeat the steps here, I'm gonna mark my eyes here, my brow is a little bit above, my nose is halfway from the brow to the chin, my mouth opening is 1/3 from the chin to the bottom of the nose to the chin. Okay, so that gets us started. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the contours of her face, and I'm going to see that we've got a little scoop in right here, so I'll capture that, and we're going to make her forehead fairly straight, and then it sort of comes up here at her hairline. We'll deal with that in a minute. For her nose, she definitely has an upturned nose, so I know that by the time I get back to here, I need to have gone out and back in. Okay, so there we go, out and back in. Now she's got a little bit of a bump on her nose, and the tip of her nose is quite small, so let me do my best to see if I can capture that. I'll try my best. I'll try my best. As I told you guys, like I really like using a reference photo, but I don't love the kind of pressure that it puts on us to try to draw people exactly the way they look. Use the reference photo to get anatomy that looks nice and shading and details and make it look like a real person. Okay, let's get her lip. So now I'm going to connect from there to the chin, as long as you're happy with your chin positioning. And I'll see if I can get her upper lip, 1, 2, it's kind of like a small nose in terms of the shape. And then her lower lip is going to extend out a little bit more. There's a pretty dramatic scoop back in, and then she's got a nice chin shape that will then come back here. Somebody in the classroom outside of me is listening, or I think they're having a speakerphone conversation. It's very distracting. I don't understand why people want to talk on speakerphone in public places, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so at this stage, guys, make sure your nose is sticking out enough. If it's not, make it stick out more. I would say when I'm coming around the classroom trying to help people make adjustments to their faces, the nose being too far in is usually the thing that I correct the most. Okay, let's get the eye in place. When you do your eyes, you are going to draw the oval, which would be, if we were front view, this is a circle. But on a side view, it turns into an oval, and you do need to look at that reference photo, decide where to put it. I think I need to go a little further back, about like that, okay? And that is centered on the line. Now, her eye opening is like a V turned on its side. So I'm gonna see the upper eyelid, and I'm gonna see the lower eyelid. And what I want to point out to you guys is that if you remember when we drew the front view of the eye, how the eyelid very frequently chops off the top of the circle. Well, same thing's happening here. It's just not a circle, it's an oval. So I'm going to chop off the top. And instead, what we end up with oftentimes is this upper eyelid shape that we can put in place. Okay, I'm going to put her eyebrow right here, and it kind of comes up, and then it kind of just stops. Kind of comes up and it kind of just stops. She's got some really nice eyelashes and makeup that I'll shade in a minute. And then I'm going to come around and get her nostril. We do typically see a little bit of nostril in this side view, and we often see like that curve shape. And I'm just going to erase some extra lines, make it a little cleaner on my drawing. Okay, let me get some brains, guys. This is exactly what I was talking about. Like I just said to make your head big enough, and when I roughed it out, I definitely did not. So I'm looking at this now and thinking that I probably need to make this just a little bigger than I had it. Especially because she's got such a fun, nice short haircut. Okay, let's put in the ear. So I'm going to follow her jaw back. I'm going to put the ear coming from about here to about there, brow to nose, and see if we can get an ear of some sort in here. I'm going to put a tiny bit of anatomy just so that it doesn't look empty. Okay, and I think now we can continue on with the mouth. Okay, so I'm going to draw in the upper lip, and the lower lip we've got a nice shadow underneath, but we don't see too much of a connection in terms of line work right there. One thing I do want to mention to everybody, people feel like they need to make them happy by drawing the mouth going upwards. Guys, it will just look like the Joker. Don't do it. Did you see that? Like, whoa, whoa. Don't do that. Let your mouth, even if she's happy, her mouth is going to go slightly downwards, and then it might give you just a suggestion that she's got a smile going on. But don't overdo it because she'll look jokery. I needed to scoop that in a little bit more. Okay, let's get a hairline on her. So we're going to come from about here, and then we go down, and then she's got this great shape that's going to arch over her ear, if I can get it to do it. And then we've got this right there, and then, oh, she has no sideburns really. Just that back here. Okay, maybe something like that. Okay, that'll get us started. And then she's got a part right here, and she's got this really great hairstyle. See if I can capture it. So when you're doing a hairstyle, start by outlining it is usually the easiest way to go. So I've got the hairline. This raises up above her hair, so I can erase away the skull under here. Okay. And then we're going to start breaking it up into bits and pieces. So I can see on my reference photo that this hair is going like that. So I'm just going to chunk it out a little bit, and as we get towards the front, it's sort of curving over down towards the bangs that come down. And then this is going to come back here, and we'll have some sort of choppiness. Okay, so there's my silhouette. I'll come back to that. Let's see what else I want to do on the face. Did I get everything? I think I've got everything. I think I'm at a stage now where I can start putting some shading. Okay, so where do we see shading? For sure under the chin. I want you guys to look at your reference photos. Sometimes you'll see a nice highlight hitting under the chin. Sometimes not. Depends on how it's lit. And then we can put some shading on her neck. She's kind of washed out in terms of the lighting of this photo, so not a ton of shading that I can see through here except just right under her chin. I'm still using a 2B, but I am really about to switch I'm still using an HB, which is not my favorite, guys. I use it for layout in case I have to erase, but I really prefer a softer pencil. Okay, and then we'll come in here and we'll shade around. And remember, my photo is tilted, so I'm going to twist it so that we can kind of try to keep it in the same orientation. Oh my gosh, 18 minutes already. Let me see just how much I can get in here before this video gets way too long. Shading right under the eye, shading right above the eye where she's got, it's hard to tell if it's makeup or if it's shadow, but either way, if it's dark, it's dark, right? If it's dark, trust that you can make it dark on your drawing. And we'll give her some lashes, and there's shading here. And then just look at your photo. Oftentimes you can see on the one that I've got down below, there's more shading. And there's more shading not because she had a darker skin tone necessarily. There's more shading just because there was more lighting in the drawing. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to force it. If I don't see it, I'm not going to force it. So what I want you guys to do is give me a profile face that is large like this to practice your proportions. Use a reference photo. And then do a small one on your actual face. But since I've got you, and before this video gets too long, I do want to come back and talk about this hair because it kind of looks fun, and also it might be helpful for people. So let's do this part first because this is the easiest part. This is the part where the hair is coming up and over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chunk it out. Okay, break your hair up into chunks so it's not overwhelming. With each chunk, come from the roots and then come from the other end and leave a highlight. Come from the roots, come from the other end, leave a highlight. Come from the roots, come from the other end, leave a highlight. I'm using a 2B. I definitely like a darker, softer pencil for this because you can work pretty quickly and you can get some nice drama. If I worked with an HB, guarantee you I would do all this work, but I'd still have to come back later and add some variety of value and darken up a few things to make the drawing pop. Okay, this whole section behind, as long as you cleaned up your face really nicely, we can darken the area behind her, which will be really fun because that'll allow her profile to really pop. I don't really see too much of anything up in here, just darkness. Okay, so we can go ahead and darken that up and get right up along her face. And then this area down at the bottom where we've got some blunt kind of choppy bangs, we can pull some lines up from the bottom. But notice I'm even though I'm drawing lines, my goal here is not to draw individual hairs. Okay, I want you to think of hair as volume with shadow and highlight. Try not to think of it as hairs because that will I don't know, it might kind of get in your head and you'll start drawing all these scraggly lines that I think really kind of confuse a drawing when you're dealing with hair. Okay, now for the other parts of the hair, what have we got? We've got this part here, which is short. Not as short as the rest of it. Oh, she's got a longer part in back, guys. Looking closer at my drawing, she's actually got this longer kind of like part in the back. So approach longer hair the same way. If it's smooth hair, you can chunk it and you can sweep your shadow from the roots towards the other direction and from the other direction back towards the roots, and that'll fill in that area. Now for all of this, I'm going to fill it in with little pencil strokes, which again, they do approximate hair, but I'm not thinking hair. I'm just thinking, is it dark? Is it light? Is it dark? Is it light? And trying to fill it in using pencil strokes that kind of help me to get the texture I need. And I'll come and get that all the way down. I'm going a little faster than I'd like to. I just don't want this video to be a million years long. Down here, down here, down here, and then that's going to kind of blend into the rest. Okay, now what I love is this little design on her head. So I'm going to crisp up the bottom edge here. It's all quite dark, so I could probably come in and get this even darker. This area. Okay, so how are we going to draw that area? Well, don't sweat it, guys. Think about what you see. Do you see individual hairs? I kind of just see an area that's lightly shaded. So that's what I'm going to do. Give it some value. It gets a little darker down here. And then once you've given it some value, and I'm seeing a tiny bit of texture, you could add a little bit of stubbly dots. And then just pause and squint and determine if the darkness and the lightness are working in balance with each other on your drawing the same way they are in the photo. Like for example, this needs to be a little darker. This little area I needed to darken up. I'm going over it too because I don't want that to look like long hairs because it's not that long right there. Okay, I'm having too much fun with this one. I don't want my video to keep going too long. Okay, overall I think I got it. I think her nose needs to be a little bit longer out, but anyway, I'm gonna call it on this one. But hopefully that was fun for you guys. So what you need to do before you submit is just go back to your profile, go ahead and add hair, add face, and do a big practice profile face. So a lot of drawing today, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing your drawings. When you submit them, if there's anything in particular that you feel like you want a little help with, just let me know and I'll see if I can advise you. Okay, thanks guys. I will see you in the next video.